Frieza is undoubtedly the wild card for Team Universe 7 going further within the Tournament of Power, as he is the only resurrected fighter who is competing as a dead warrior for the very universe that he hates, as Frieza seems to play a very key role as to what may or may not happen leading into the ending of the Tournament of Power. And given his nature on today's video, we're going to be diving into 5 predictions surrounding Frieza within the Tournament of Power that I personally feel may happen and pertains to Frieza's character. And as always, this is going to be an opinionated video, so if you have any predictions of your own to share, in which I challenge you all to post 5 predictions of your own for Frieza and Frieza only down in the comments, and seeing where the community stands on the subject of Frieza in the Tournament of Power. And as always, if you guys are new to this channel, be sure to go on ahead and punch that subscribe button and turn on notifications. That way you guys can be notified whenever a Dragon Ball video is posted onto this channel. It pertains to news, information, discussions, and updates. Hashtag notification squad. As we move on into the first prediction, that being Frieza will eliminate a Universe 6 Saiyan. Now, given Frieza's nature and his disgust and hatred for the Saiyans of Universe number 7, it'll only make sense, in my opinion, given Frieza's history with the Saiyans of Universe number 7, to have Frieza, if anything, eliminate 1 or 2 of the Saiyans who reside from Universe number 6, that being Kale, Khalifa, or Kabe, would be the best suitable thing to do for Frieza's character, given the nature of Krillin having to be ringed out by Frost, who in which very ironically resembles the very same person that killed Krillin off during the Namek story, ultimately fit the mold in having Krillin be rung out by someone similar to that concept, and seeing Frost having to toss out Krillin, and having to look at Frieza's nature and completely and utterly having to despise the Saiyans and having to completely and utterly eradicate their entire planet. How suitable and satisfying would it be to see Frieza come across not only another male Saiyan, but 2 other females as well, who also very ironically enough happen to bear the exact same transformation as Goku did back when he battled against Frieza on planet Namek and defeating him, having to go toe-to-toe against each other and learning about the fate of the Universe 7 Saiyans, and Frieza revealing to them that if he had the opportunity, he would go to Universe number 6 and wipe out planet Sadal as well. Surely enough, that would trigger Kaba, and possibly creating a very epic battle between Kaba and Frieza. But also, let's not forget about the quote-unquote female Broly, the fan service that we've never gotten before, and seeing someone who looks like Broly having to combat the likes of Frieza. Kale versus Frieza, Khalifa versus Frieza, and Kabe versus Frieza would definitely be a showdown that I think the community would want to see. Ultimately enough, Golden Frieza as a singular fighter would completely decimate all 3, which is why I believe it's only suitable for Frieza, the very same person that killed off the Saiyans in Universe number 7, to ultimately eliminate 1 or 2 of the other remaining Saiyans, and thus setting up for the final Saiyan remaining having to fight for their survival, which would only make sense given Frieza's character and having to battle against not only Kabe, a male, but also 2 female Super Saiyans, something Frieza has never seen before. And I dare say by the end of it, at least 1 of the 3 Saiyans seen in this tournament will be eliminated by Frieza. Now, moving on to the second prediction of the video is going to be Frieza will backstab Frost. Now, given Frieza's history as a person, I don't think that Frieza works very well with other people. Granted, he's had a squad before, he's had several people work for him, but having to look at how far Frieza's come now, I don't think that it's in Frieza's character to work alongside anybody, which is why I believe that he's only going to use Frost as a simple tool to get to where he wants to be, in order to use Frost as some sort of shield for him to take all the bullets and take all the damage too, while Frieza goes behind the scenes and trying to execute his plan further. Because keep in mind, Frieza is the only character as of this very point who seems to have a hidden agenda in trying to rule over BEERUS and getting back at Goku. So I firmly believe that Frieza is only using Frost as a simple tool to get to where he wants to be, to do what he wants to do, and not really caring about who gets in his way. And I do believe that at some given point, Frieza will backstab Frost, as I do feel like down the line, he's going to reveal to Frost that he never needed anyone to begin with, that he can do what he wanted to do and do what he needed to do simply by doing it alone. So at some given point, I do think that both of them will in fact work together, but given both of their natures as being deceivers and snakes and backstabbers and liars and hypocrites, I do think that Frieza is the bigger hypocrite over Frost, and I do think that Frieza will do whatever he needs to do to establish himself as the more dominant force in trying to either ring out Frost Frost or backstab him as the tournament progresses. And I don't think that this team is going to last very long, but between both Frost and Frieza, if you had to ask me who would be the last man remaining in this tournament between the two, then my money is surely going to be on Lord Frieza. Moving into prediction number 3 is I think Frieza won't reveal his full power until the middle or end of the Tournament of Power. Now the reason for this is because Frieza has literally done nothing in this Tournament of Power so far. The only thing he's done was manage to simply toy around with some of the fodder characters, in torturing some characters when needed, in forcing some to jump out the ring, in having to body others completely with little to no effort, and thus far there hasn't been anyone to approach Frieza in challenging him and forcing him to use his true powers. And I do think that Frieza, although powerful enough, is definitely going to be saving this transformation for a later time. There is no need for Frieza as of this very point to use up all of his power, because as of now there hasn't been any other fighter like Jiren or Toppo or Hit or any other fighter of that magnitude to approach Frieza in allowing him to force that power out of him and revealing his golden form. But at some given point towards the middle or the end of the tournament is when I believe Frieza is truly going to turn up the heat and bring the firepower to anyone who opposes him, as I do feel confidently that true Golden Frieza is what was needed in Resurrection F to take down Super Saiyan Blue, as I do personally feel that true Golden Frieza is going to exceed expectations, and when it does come down to Frieza revealing his true power, it's going to come as a surprise, because many other people feel in comparison that Frieza isn't really worthy enough of being in this tournament, but I do think that once Frieza unleashes his power and demonstrates to the entire multiverse as to who he is and why he is here, is when heads are going to begin to turn and people are going to start showing him some respect in the character that he is and bringing the firepower against the other universes. Granted, we don't really know as of right now as to which character that's going to be enforcing Frieza in using this golden power, but when the time comes, I do believe it's going to be a very defining moment for Universe number 7 in revealing Frieza's true nature. But at this given point now, there is no reason for anybody in the tournament to really take things serious, because there are certain fighters in this tournament that aren't worthy of having you transform further just to put more strain on your body in order to throw them out, and thus allowing certain characters to revert back and using inferior forms to preserve their energy later for a bigger and much more intense battle. But until that very time comes, I do definitively feel that Frieza is going to continue to toy around with certain characters until the opportunity presents itself in forcing Frieza in using his full power, and which leads into our next prediction, which is I do believe that Frieza will battle against Hit and Toppo. Now this particular scenario is a dream match for many, and number one, having to recognize Toppo and having to insinuate what evil is and pointing out the evildoers and having to conquer them, that's Toppo's nature, in representing truth and justice and honesty and having to vanquish all forms of evil. And Frieza, ironically enough, just so happens to be the epitome of evil, and having the two clash would not only be a clash of personalities but also a clash of great power, because as strong as Golden Frieza is, you have to give credit where credit is due in acknowledging Toppo's powers as well, and seeing how well Toppo was able to fare up against Goku Super Saiyan Blue during the Zen exhibition match, and one can only assume that Toppo versus Frieza would be a very defining battle for this tournament, and having one of the candidates to be a god of destruction battle against the evil emperor of Universe number 7, but also having to look at Frieza's nature. Having Frieza battle against the legendary assassin would also be a very groundbreaking battle as well, in seeing if Frieza also possesses the necessary capabilities of handling himself against Hit. And despite what some people may say, Hit is clearly nerfed in the tournament, for he cannot execute his assassination skills to the way he wants to in order to put someone down, because if this was a killing match, of course Hit would dominate for the most part, but what if this situation arose to where killing is allowed and he encountered Golden Frieza, someone who thrives on killing and destruction? That would make for a very interesting battle. But in a tournament-like setting, the question lingers, does Frieza possess the necessary capabilities in having to ring out someone who's as powerful and adaptable as someone like Hit, given Hit's previous track records in fighting against Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken's Goku and alongside Dispo in a very recent battle? And I do also feel, before we have our climatic battle between Goku and Jiren, there has to be a secondary involvement involving several different characters, and I do feel as if at some given point towards the middle or the end of this tournament, we are indefinitely going to witness Golden Frieza either battle against Hit or Toppo, or if not both, at some given point, before we get to see the big climatic battle battle between Goku and Jiren. And which leads into my final prediction of this video, is I do definitively feel that Frieza is going to betray universe number 7. However, there is going to be a catch to this. Given Frieza's attitude, given Frieza's demeanor, given his hatred for BEERUS, his hatred for Goku, his hatred for everyone there, I do feel as if Frieza is in this battle for himself. And with that, why be on the same team with the very people you cannot stand the sight of in Goku, Tien, Gohan, Piccolo, Vegeta, and several others, in having to represent them when you can ultimately represent yourself? Which is why I do believe that Frieza is in this fight for himself, as he made that painfully clear before, and I do think that at some given point, Goku is going to drop his guard in allowing Frieza to get the better of him yet again, in which leads into the conclusion of Frieza even being a part of this tournament to begin with, and finding out what happens after. Does Frieza get ringed out by a different opponent? Does Frieza get ringed out by one of his own teammates, such as Vegeta or Goku? Does Frieza possibly get Hokkai'd by the gods in trying to rebel against them, in trying to define them, in wanting to even dethrone Zeno? Does Frieza make that cowardly move in trying to attack the gods? What happens to his being? By some chance, does the timer on his overall revival wear out and he goes back to where he came from before he can even have a significant impact within the actual tournament? But nonetheless, having to look at Frieza's character and having to see the way he acts, the way he talks, his representation within the world of Dragon Ball, he is by far the biggest scumbag that we've ever seen in terms of a villain. And what a suitable way it would be to have Frieza as one of the main villains of Dragon Ball, having to betray his own team, having to turn on his own people, given the nature we've seen previous in the world of Dragon Ball. Granted, not every villain should be redeemed, and I don't think that Frieza deserves any sort of redemption to begin with. He should remain the way he is. He should backstab his team just because of his pure hatred for Son Goku, for Vegeta, for BEERUS, for everyone else that is on that team, and seeing how vile he is as a person, and seeing even after death itself, he still cannot be trusted. It'll only fit the narrative of the story. Instead of having Frieza save Goku, instead of having Frieza be buddies with his teammates, I think that what Frieza ought to do is betray his team, but not without there being a costly price to pay afterwards, in either him having to get wrung out by a teammate or of course by a different opponent. But either way, I think that Frieza is indefinitely going to leave a mark that nobody is going to forget within this tournament setting. He's done so before in previous stories. He's done so before in previous arcs. I don't think that Frieza is going to be the strongest fighter, but by far, he is going to be the most manipulative, most psychotic, most devious character among all fighters shown, because he is the only one with a plan, he is the only one with an agenda, and he is the only one who's willing to do whatever he needs to do to get ahead and putting everyone else down beneath him. But I would like to know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What are your overall thoughts on Frieza? What are your overall predictions for Frieza? When do you guys believe that he's going to unleash his golden form? What is going to be Frieza's most definitive fight? And what are 5 predictions that you guys have to share for Frieza? Drop your comments down in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys are ready to see Frieza in action, then go on ahead and slap a like on the video. If you guys are new to the channel, be sure to go on ahead and punch that subscribe button, turn on notifications, tune back in for more. Again, my final comments for this is I feel Frieza deserves the spotlight later on in having to fight the Saiyans and having to definitively show as to why he's here, because so far he's been absent, of course for a good reason, in showcasing other characters and giving them some screen time. But now as we further our way in the tournament, I think it's definitely Frieza's time to shine, and I do feel as if Frieza, if anything, is going to outshine most characters when it comes down to him displaying his power, when it comes down to Frieza displaying his ruthlessness. And even if the rules do change and killing is allowed, Frieza would most definitely have the most fun out of anybody that's going to be displayed in the tournament setting. So thank you all so much for watching. Tune back in for more, and I'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace.